Welcome to the NHL Ice Guys for SBR. It's Thursday, December the 7th. We're finally on the air, ready to roll. Technical issues to start the day as we have our second show this week in the new video format. I'm alongside Andrew McGinnis and Alex B. Smith here on this show today. Looking forward to it. Another big card. Dana Lane having some tech issues. He'll be back Saturday, though. I'm sure we'll get those figured out by then. No problem there. Let's get right to the card. It's a busy one. We've got at the top of the card, Arizona taking on Boston, 51-52 on the rotation. Boston laying a big price at home, -200 over the lowly Arizona Coyotes. Total sitting at 5.5 in this hockey game. I don't have much on this game, really. I mean, Boston, a team that, playing some better hockey, I would say, over the last week or so. 7-4-2 at home, 12-9-3 on the season against an Arizona team that actually might have Antti Raanta back tonight for this hockey game. He's been cleared and back in practice the other day. You just might see Rick Tocchet put him back in there as the starting goaltender for this game for the Arizona Coyotes. So it's definitely something you want to be aware of. I don't know if it's going to mean Arizona wins. We're still talking about a guy that, he's a good goalie. He's the best goalie they have. There's no denying that. But, still been out for a while. You're just concerned if he's going to be ready to roll right away in this hockey game. And Wedgwood's been okay enough in goal for Arizona. I think he's been decent at times, serviceable. So we'll see who ends up being the goalie for Arizona. But either way, it's a team, they've had a nice win against New Jersey in that one game recently, Arizona. That was the Wedgwood revenge game, 5-0, but they lost to Vegas their last time out in overtime, 3-2. They are playing competitive, playing a little bit, at least they're winning some hockey games. I mean, their last 10 games, 5-5. That's not bad at all for Arizona. They're at least starting to play a little bit more toward 500 mark after that brutal start. So if Raanta gives them gets the call in net, maybe a small little flyer on Arizona, but it's not going to be anything substantial. In the end, it's probably a game I'm going to stay away from. We've got Islanders Pittsburgh next up on the rotation, 53-54. We've got Pittsburgh -145 in this game. The total of 6.5. Shaded to the under, about -120, a 6.5 showing up finally for the New York Islanders. But to be honest, guys, that's not going to deter me from going over the total one more time with the New York Islanders. I'm going to be on this Islander Pittsburgh over. I cashed a ticket with the Rangers in Pittsburgh over the total the other night, as well as the Islanders in Tampa Bay over the total the other night. And really, the New York Islanders are going to be one of the bigger challenges, defensively for the Pittsburgh Penguins in quite some time. And for their right now de facto number one goalie, Tristan Jarry, who's in there with Matt Murray out. I mean, it's a situation where Tristan Jarry had got off to a really rolling start for this Pittsburgh team in net, but did a lot of that against some weaker offensive teams, including 2 against the Buffalo Sabres. Faced the New York Rangers the other night. Finally started to look a little bit human, a little bit, like a goalie that could be beaten finally. Tristan Jarry in that 4-3 Rangers loss the other night. Islanders are on fire right now. Power play rolling. They're getting great contributions from. It's not necessarily Tavares who's the leader of that team offensively, but Matt Barzal's been big. Anders Lee has been big. Big offensive contributions from those guys for this New York Islanders team. And right now they're putting a puck in the net. They're also giving them up in bunches, though, on a nightly basis. I mean, how Ottawa, given the horrible offensive drought they've been on, somehow got 6 goals on this Islanders team last week. It's hard to believe, but they did. And it goes to show you they're struggling a little bit defensively. PK, goaltending from Grice and Halak, that combination's been very, very mediocre. So I've got no problem riding the Islanders over the total one more time. It's getting up there, I know, 6.5. That you're not getting 5.5s, you're not getting even 6s now. You're getting 6.5. That's not a bargain by any stretch, but can you get to 7? I could see it getting to 7. So give me the over in that game, 6.5, with the Islanders taking on the Penguins there in that one. Let's see. Next up, we've got Winnipeg, Florida, 55-56. And I can tell you, this is a big-time opinion from all of us here on the Ice Guys show. We've got Winnipeg about -120, road favorite, total of 6. Winnipeg Jets playing good hockey. They've against Detroit, didn't have a good performance. They were just walking into a buzzsaw. I mean, the Detroit Red Wings, and we said that on Tuesday's show, guys, or I remember saying this for sure. If the Detroit Red Wings are going to show you something after 2 just debilitating, pathetic, brutal losses against Montreal, blowout, embarrassing, humiliating, that was going to be the spot against the Winnipeg Jets on Tuesday night to show up, with pride put a balls to the wall 60-minute effort on the ice, and they did that. 5-1 win against Winnipeg the other night. Good performance from Detroit and a desperation, show some pride for yourself type of spot. Detroit did that. Maybe caught Winnipeg a little flat. They had a nice little run going. Now on the road against an out-of-conference team, a little bit flat. I think Winnipeg will probably bring a better effort. And you like to back good teams off a loss. If you're a good hockey team, if you want to be one of the elite teams in the league, usually when you have a loss and a bad performance, it doesn't sit well with you, and you come back the next game and really fire back strong. I think Winnipeg's going to do that tonight. Winnipeg's 6-0 in their last 6 games off a loss. That's the role they're in tonight. No Roberto Luongo, of course, now for Florida. That's a concern. You've got to rely on stiffs like James Reimer in net. That's a problem going forward for this Florida team. He's not been good. And I hate saying that because in Toronto, when he was a starting goaltender, he gave them some good work there for a period of time. Really played well at times there. Hasn't translated here to a backup role in Florida, especially this year. It's been a rough go. His numbers aren't great. I think Winnipeg's offense could prove to be a bad combination with James Reimer in net for this Florida Panthers team. I'm going to look side and total in this game. I'm going to go Winnipeg. Lay the -116. That's a good price that's out there right now at Heritage Sports. Good price there. And also over 6. I think it's going to be a situation where Florida, like they did the other night against the Islanders, with Luongo not in net, this becomes a much greater over team. I mean, they're not going to be as good defensively. The goaltending's not going to be as good. PK's not going to be as good. They're not going to be able to keep the puck out of their net as easily. So I like the side and the total there. Give me the Jets and give me over 6 in that game against Florida. We've got both our ice guys into this game as well. Alex and Andrew talking about the Jets and the Panthers. Let's go to Andrew McInnes. Let's start with you. Winnipeg, Florida. What you got? We hearing Andrew? I'm not.
No,
Andrew, we got to get your mic going here.
Oh, sorry about that, Ian. My apologies,
There we
guys.
go. All right.
Yeah, my
That kind of
apologies.
day.
No, I was just saying that coming off that loss against Detroit, I mean it's definitely one of those things where if you're going to see a team that's going to coming into that game, if you expected a lopsided victory, you expected that lopsided victory to really come from the Winnipeg Jets, not really the Detroit Red Wings. So I love this bounce back spot here, and I think it's kind of almost disrespectful the Winnipeg Jets that they're getting even that -117, -120 right now. I mean, uh, this is one reason why I do like the fact that we have this show early on, guys, in the day. Sometimes it would be nice to have it on maybe lunchtime or something like that, get more people viewing in and tuning in live. But reasons like this, I do strongly believe that Winnipeg will close at a lot higher of a number, and there's reasons for it. I mean, they deserve to have more respect. They have not done too well on the road against the Panthers, and this Panthers team that doesn't really have much depth at all. I mean, besides their number one D pairing, Keith Yandel and Aaron Ekblad, I don't really see anything that stands out on this blue line for the Florida Panthers. And like I said, I've been saying this. I've really been talking about the Jets for our past couple Ice Guys shows, but their depth is just second to none. Maybe not defensive depth, but you look at all 3 lines that they have, at their top 3 lines, they can roll, they can score, and their power play is outstanding. They're averaging 3.39 goals per game, guys. Florida's averaging 2.9. They're putting up 30 shots a game easily, and those are all quality shots. Those are all good shots. But a couple of good stats here about Winnipeg. I kind of do like the over as well in this game. I'm leaning Winnipeg money line, but the total has gone over in 6 of Winnipeg's last 9 games when playing Florida. Total has gone under, though, in 17 of Winnipeg's last 25 games when playing on the road against Florida. So it's kind of a bigger kind of picture to look at. But again, this Winnipeg team, simply just because of the odds we were getting last night on the overnight, and right now, guys, this is just too strong of a team. And like Ian said, you look at a team like this off a loss, sometimes you got to just not think about it too much and just say, wow, like can the Winnipeg Jets really go 2 in a row and against this kind of rather bummy team against the Florida Panthers? They love like let teams walk all over them. They love to get in those track meet style games. And I think the Winnipeg would gladly walk into one of those style games. Alex, do you agree on that?
Yeah, I absolutely agree on that. And it was funny because I'm looking back over it. I'm like, wow, I'm like, this price is awfully short, especially for the fact that you have a Florida team that lost Luongo in the middle of that game. So Reimer coming in, they've already had goalie issues up and down all year, and the defense has been absolutely atrocious. So you got a Winnipeg team not only 6-0 off of a loss, but they've won 5 of their last 7 as a favorite. This is the time of year now where something I had to learn the hard way is that you learn every day when you're betting sport. Favorites are the thing to go with now, as far as short favorites, at least. I'm a dog player, but I've been getting in with some chalky prices, and they've been cashing in. It's all about who wins at the end of the day. And if I can find a shorter favorite than something larger, I'm definitely gonna ride with that. But like I said, this is a game where even with Luongo was healthy, I would have had this price at about $1.40. See, now you got Reimer in there. Reimer's 3-5-1 his career against Winnipeg. No, no illusions there. I'm going with the Jets.
Yeah, I mean, Reimer's numbers we see at 3.67 goals against, 8.92 save percentage. That's not nearly good enough. It's got to be better than that. And certainly he's going to. And now you got to be thrown into the fire here. Yeah, now he came in for Luongo in the middle of that Islander game the other night. This is going to be your first start now since Luongo got injured, and you've got to do it against one of the most potent power plays and one of the most potent offensive teams right now going in this Winnipeg Jets team. And yeah, they got held to 1 goal by Detroit, but that was just one of those, no one stopping it. No one was beating Detroit the other night. I mean, that's just the way they played. They were just they were diving to block shots left and right, something you rarely ever saw from them. And a lot of teams in the regular season, they absolutely desperately wanted and needed that game. I don't really fault Winnipeg too much for losing that one against Detroit. I think they got a good chance to bounce back here. Dana, by the way, who is not with us, Dana Lane, technical issues. He has sent me in his plays for that he was going to give out on the show. We include 2 of them are on games we've talked about, so I'm going to mention them right now. Arizona, Boston. Dana's involved in that game. He's on the under in that game, 5.5 -115. So Dana Lane likes under 5.5. Arizona, Boston makes sense, especially if Antti Raanta comes back for the Coyotes tonight in net. And he's also involved in the Islanders Pittsburgh game. He's on Pittsburgh minus $1.45 in that game. The consensus line: Pittsburgh Penguins laying 145. He's on that one as well in that hockey game, and he's got one more play as well that we'll talk about later in the show for one of the games down the card. And speaking of going down the card, we're going to keep going down the card right now. Colorado, Tampa Bay, 57-58. Tampa Bay, big favorite, minus 240. Total sitting at 6, slightly shaded to the under at about minus 115. And I cashed with Tampa Bay over the other night against the Islanders. That was more of an Islanders over thing for me than it was a Tampa thing. Although Tampa Bay suddenly changed up his lines, John Cooper, prior to the San Jose game on Saturday. And since then, 11 goals in 2 games, 5 against San Jose, 6 against the Islanders. So those line changes have worked. There's chemistry. There's a little bit of rapport going on now with these little tweaks that John Cooper's made in this Tampa Bay Lightning lineup, and it's worked out well for this team. No question about that. They were getting a little stagnant just for a brief period of time offensively, but the last couple of games they found the offense again. He basically moved Nemesnikov up to the top line with Stamkos along with Johnson. So you got a Nemesnikov, Stamkos, Johnson top line, and actually moved Kucherov to with Braden Point and Andre Palat on a second line, just trying to give more balance, split up Kucherov and Stamkos for the first time in a while, and it's worked. Just trying to balance the lines out a little bit as John Cooper, and it's resulted in 11 goals for the Tampa Bay Lightning in 2 games. And all of a sudden, one of the hottest goal scorers on this team actually resides on their third line. That tells you how deep they can be offensively when they're going. Yanni Gourde has all of a sudden exploded offensively lately here for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Third line center. He's been great lately. I mean, his recent numbers are terrific. He's got 8 goals, 10 assists on the season. But lately he's been doing very good. Had a big game against the New York Islanders the other night. So again, it just goes to show you the depth that this Tampa Bay Lightning team has. It's going to be a challenge here for the Colorado Avalanche. I don't know what I can say that can excuse you for losing on home ice to the Buffalo Sabres, but that's what happened to the Colorado Avalanche in their last game. Not good whatsoever. They're in tough here against Tampa. I mean, they really, really are. We've seen Tampa with 2 convincing wins against quality foes, San Jose and the Islanders, the last 2 games since these line changes were made. I don't know if Colorado's the type of team I trust to slow them down. So again, it's overpriced on Tampa. You have to look puck line at this point if you're going to play them, but definitely not going to make a case for Colorado here in this game. Looks like Andrew's got a lean here on the Avs and the Bolts tonight. Andrew, you got a particular way you're trying to look at betting this game here?
Well, the fact is, when I was, looking at the bets last night, looking at the different lines and all these different games, guys, I did find it kind of different. It's definitely a different approach I had to look at and looking at these games. And like Ian mentioned to us, Alex and I off air, he was talking like it's more of a totals day for him, and I think we both have to agree, excuse me, just simply off how heavily these favorites are being pounded right now. Like in my opinion, sometimes there's almost not even a point in going with the puck line with some of these guys. I mean, obviously, if you love your pick, you love your pick, and it's great, and you can take it at whatever juice you want to take or whatever terrible odds you want to get them at. But for me right now, I just simply think that this Colorado team, for one, is definitely 100% an over team this year. They've simply shown me that they know how to score as well. They know how to execute on their power play, but they certainly know how to have defensive breakdowns, defensive collapses as well. And that's what you look for as well when you're betting on the over. And I try and stay off a lot of like sixes and even when stuff moves to 6.5. But looking at this and the way Tampa's been playing, I am not shy whatsoever to hop on and take this game over the total, guys. To me, this stands out like a sore thumb. This is one of those ones where it's just like I'm not. It's not my favorite play of the night. Wouldn't be my best bet by any means. But you just look at these guys right now. Tampa averaging 3.75 goals per game. Colorado 3.12. They're both averaging an extraordinary amount of shots, and just the over is just hashing for these guys. Total has gone over in 6 of Colorado's last 7 games on the road for them. Total has gone over in 14 of Colorado's last 19 games. Of course, Tampa Bay, the total's gone over in 5 of Tampa's last 6 games at home specifically. So, I mean, certain stats don't lie like that. The numbers don't have feelings. They don't care what we have to say. They just let us know what's going on. And for me, the over is the play in this game, guys. This is a young Avs team. I think that the puck line probably will cash for Tampa. They're gonna get walked all over. I think Tampa Bay is gonna absolutely walk all over the Avalanche. But I just can't see this team ever getting shut out right now in a team against a team like Tampa Bay. I think they'll still compete. They'll maybe put up 2, maybe 3 goals on the board, but this should be one of the higher scoring games on the card, I think.
It's got the potential to be. Certainly, you're in good shape if Tampa Bay scores 5+ goals like they have the last 2 games. All you need is 1 or 2 from Colorado, and you get that sucker over the total. So that's what you're going to be looking at here in this game. I don't argue with it. I wouldn't bet the under. That's for sure. Not with Tampa Bay's newfound offensive life since these shift in the lines. I mean, that tells you how good that's how good a coach John Cooper is. You saw this team from an offensive perspective. Wasn't just firing on all cylinders like they were early in the season. They were held to 2 goals, 3 goals, 1 goal even a couple of times. He said, let's shake things up, shake up the lines. Let's put Vladislav Nemesnikov up on that top line, and boy, look what it's done. Six against the Islanders, 5 against San Jose in 2 games. So that's good coaching. We know John Cooper's a good coach. He doesn't have to do something like that to prove he's a good coach, but just another example of why he is one of the better coaches in the league. He's proactive. He thinks the game. He knows he's just got to. He takes the temperature of the team, and he knows when to make moves and adjustments like that. And he's done that here, and it's paid off for Tampa in terms of their offensive production the last 2 games. Calgary, Montreal, next game, 59-60. We've got no line on this one as of right now. Calgary in a tough back-to-back situation. Very tough, hard-fought, grinded out defensively type of game against Toronto last night. They've come up short, losing 2-1 in a shootout. Frederik Andersen was really the story again. 47 shots he faced. He was great again. He's a top 2 or 3 goalie right now in the league. It's not even a question. I mean, how good Frederik Andersen's been for the Toronto Maple Leafs. They've gotten away with some games they could have easily lost Toronto the last few weeks that they won because Frederik Andersen was a tower of power and a pillar of strength in between the pipes, and he was again last night for the Toronto Maple Leafs. But tough spot here for Calgary on the road playing Montreal. Hey, Montreal finally played a good team on their schedule during this little run they've put together, and they lost. So 4-3, they lost to the St. Louis Blues the other night. But finally, a little bit of a step up in competition, and they weren't able to get the job done. Finally, cooling off Carey Price a little bit. The St. Louis Blues the other night, putting a 4 spot in behind him. So it's a game I'm not going to be involved in. It's a tough spot for Calgary. Montreal off that loss, probably looking to bounce back. But, let's see what Montreal can do. I mean, I think their red hot run was not completely, but at least a little bit schedule related. They faced some sisters of the poor. in the NHL. Let's see now how they do. They lost to St. Louis. They're facing still a pretty good Calgary team here. Let's see how they fare tonight. Staying away from that game, but it'll be an interesting one to see how it plays out. Dallas St. Louis, the next game, 61-62. We've got St. Louis minus 155, home favorite in this one. Total 5.5 shaded to the over. Bounce back time for the Dallas Stars. Man, yeah, that team, which was red hot going into their game against Nashville, did they get cooled off in a big way? Whoo, got stomped on home ice by the Nashville Predators. What an impressive win for Nashville in that game. Nashville's just going a going concern right now. Nashville, they're just a buzzing. They're playing great hockey. Dallas got swept up in that the other night. I think you're going to want to get a spirited effort here from the Dallas Stars following that game. Again, good teams off a loss. They've been playing pretty good hockey. Kind of interested in the Dallas side. I'll try to make a case, I think, a little bit for Dallas in this game. I know St. Louis coming off nice win against Montreal the other night, 4-3. Snapped a little bit of a funk they've been in, and it's not been a great little stretch of time here the last week or so for Mike Yeo and his Blues, but nice win against Montreal. But Dallas probably not going to take too kindly to losing the way they did at home against Nashville, and they had been very good at home. Dallas, they've not been great on the road. That would be the one concern I have here for the Dallas Stars. But I think from an effort perspective, a step-up type of spot, this probably is one for the Dallas Stars. So I'll probably find some kind of bet here on Dallas at the plus price prior to puck drop. What's Alex B. Smith involved with here? Stars and Blues, Alex, what are you looking at?
At first glance, I went to look at St. Louis here because you look at Dallas, except with that loss against Nashville, they've now lost 7 of their last 11 against the division. This has been a long stretch of division games. These are the games that are going to come back to bite you. If you're on the outside looking in the playoff race. Come March and April. So they really got to get up against it here tonight in St. Louis. But you got Kari Lehtinen starting, which we've made more than enough fun of him on the show, letting them in. But you got to look deeper. He's won 4 of his last 5 starts. So I mean, he's starting to pick up. I think now he knows he's not doing the whole tandem thing anymore like he did when Niemi was in town with him. He knows he's the backup guy. He's the veteran guy. He's got to come in and be a lot sharper when he does get these starts. And I think that's starting to sink in a little bit. You look at St. Louis. I said it, a couple episodes ago. Braden Shen is the key factor for this Blues team. He had the hat trick the other night. He hadn't been scoring for a while. When he scores and plays well, the rest of the team follows suit. That's good if he's playing well, but if he's not, then that means there's another 17 guys that aren't really quite pick up the slack right now. So at a plus price, looking at Dallas said Lehtinen could keep his kind of hot streak going anyway. I think the price is right with Stars.
Yeah, and I think it's factored in that Lehtinen's in that too. I mean, that's why the price is as inflated as it is. I mean, and St. Louis is taking money. It's up to minus 155, 160 now. That's a big. I mean, Dallas is. I know they finally lost a game, but still, the grand swatch of games that they've played lately, to me, doesn't indicate that they're plus 140 dog here in this matchup. I mean, I know Lehtinen sometimes you got to hold your heart sometimes trying to bet on this Dallas team with him in net, but I think there's some decent value in the price here on Dallas tonight. What's Andrew looking at in this game?
Yeah, I'll just continue on, add on to that for Dallas's past couple games. 5-2 loss to Nashville, 7-2 win over Colorado, 3-2 win over Chicago, 4-3 win over Chicago. So it goes to show they're kind of coming to life, guys. I feel like this is the kind of time of year in NHL where teams try to establish who they are. Their identity really comes to life. Whether or not you're in a streak, you're in a little slump, whatever it is, this is the kind of time of year where you really are telling the league and the media and everybody who you want to be known as and who you really are. And I think that's why Dallas has turned things around this past couple of weeks. It wasn't a good performance against Nashville, but I think more so hats off to Nashville for their great performance in this game. But I was able to get this at minus 5.5 at a pretty good odds last night. And I think the over is really good. I got it at about minus 110 last night, 5.5. Able to get it at the opener and solid spot. And I think it's just one of those things you can't ignore about how these two teams match up, one against each other, but two just coming into this game alone. St. Louis averaging 3.29 goals per game, Dallas 3.07 goals per game. So anytime I see two teams averaging over 3 goals per game, it catches my interest. Then you look at head-to-head matchups. The last 3 games these two teams have played each other, St. Louis averaging 3.67 goals per game. And that's pretty impressive for me. Their power play percentage, 50%, penalty kills, 72%. So I definitely like St. Louis, and I do think that they did come to life against Montreal Canadiens. And Of course, the best goaltender in the world, Carey Price, as well. So you can put up a 4-piece against Carey Price. That's gonna catch my interest as well. So a couple of stats here, guys. Total's gone over in 5 of Dallas's last 6 games when playing in St. Louis. Total's gone over in 4 of Dallas's last 6 games when playing on the road against St. Louis. And they're just an overcashing team. I mean, 4 of their last 6 in general going over the total. But this team, like I said, they're kind of shaping into the team that they were. This Dallas team was so hyped up in the media before the NHL season started. Everyone was loving them. Everyone and their grandma was about to place a future bet on them. And they started off so far this season kind of slow, but they're slowly but surely trying to establish their identity and let us know who they are. So, yeah, same thing. So I think that St. Louis will continue to have some success on offense as well, and these two teams will clash it out. So if you can get any juice with 5.5, avoid that 6 if it gets there. But this should sail over 5.5, in my opinion, guys.
All right, so Dallas for Alex and I, and over 5.5 for Andrew in the Dallas St. Louis game. Hey, make 2 bets. Hopefully go 2-0. That's hopefully what happens there. So side and total being offered up by the Ice Guys on that Star Blue game tonight. We've got Philadelphia, Vancouver, 63-64 next up. Vancouver minus 120, home favorite, total 5.5, shaded to the under. Oh, one last point about Dallas. Tyler Seguin on fire right now. Just absolutely fantastic. I think he's 5th in the league in shots. 107 shots he's fired at the net this season. I mean, he's a gunslinger. I mean, he's going to shoot that puck from anywhere and everywhere. Tyler Seguin, especially recently, it's been going in a lot for the guy. So he's been terrific for Dallas. Big catalyst for them offensively. Flyers, Canucks, Vancouver minus 120 at home, 5.5 the total, shaded to the under. This is a Dana Lane game, by the way. He's involved in this game. He has got, I believe, the under. Yes, he does. Philly, Vancouver under 5.5 for Dana. That's his bet on this game, a lower scoring game. It's not a crazy bet to me. I think it makes some sense. Vancouver has trended a little bit back to under the total since they've returned home. Remember, they flew over the total a ton on that East Coast road trip. Product of who they played. Pittsburghs and Islanders, who are going over the total every game. Rangers have been an over team lately. They're playing all of these track meet type of teams. Now, you come back home, you play Toronto. They've been trending more under lately. Play Carolina. They've been an under team predominantly. And now you're seeing Vancouver mold back into that under team. So an under 5.5 bet for Dana in this Flyers-Canucks game makes some sense to me. No question about that. Tough spot for Philly. I mean, they had a nice win. They've now all of a sudden strung 2 wins together after that 10-game losing streak, beating Calgary and Edmonton in consecutive games, but it's second of back-to-back on the road, 3rd road game in 4 nights. Tricky spot in Vancouver. There's been no letdown off that great road trip. Win against Toronto, win against Carolina in 2 games since returning home. Continuing to find ways to win and get the job done, Vancouver. So I'd have to lean Canucks here just from a spot perspective. Not a great spot for the Flyers, and Vancouver has not shown any letdown. They just keep winning, and they keep plugging away, grinding that decent, good effort up and down the lineup every night for Travis Green's team, who's instilled work ethic in this Canuck team. They put it on display most nights. They rarely ever have a real stinker or a real clunker. I mean, the effort has been very, very consistent this season for Vancouver. We'll see if it is again tonight. Alex B. Smith has got an opinion on the Flyers and Canucks game tonight. Alex, go ahead.
Yeah, I think Travis Green. I think we're going to be, if he can keep this up, we're going to be talking about him possibly being a Jack Adams finalist. I mean, this is an absolutely incredible effort. I think he's put up with he's had virtually, for lack of a better term, a pile of crap to work with, but he's made it work out, and this team's looking pretty good. And Philly, I think they've stopped burning down the city after they got 2 wins after the 10-game losing streak that they had now. But it's a tough spot. Three games in 4 nights on the road, and they've won a couple of good games, looking good, so they should feel a little bit better about themselves. But they cannot sleep on this Vancouver team, like you mentioned. They've been playing really well. Now they're starting to get some wins at home. That's also something that's been an issue. They had lost 20 of their last 25 at home, but now they turn things around. So I like Vancouver here in this spot. Not super crazy about laying $1.20 here, but I think they are the better side tonight, and that's a decent enough of a price to jump in with.
Yeah, that's interesting. And it's the one concern if you're backing Vancouver is the favorite in Vancouver games has not done well this year. I mean, it's amazing how many times the underdog has won in Vancouver games. Remember, Vancouver was an underdog the other night against Carolina. Slight underdog, but an underdog nevertheless at home. And guess what? The underdog got the money. And it's been an underdog-dominated type of run here in Vancouver Canuck games for the majority of the season. But, again, Flyers got to overcome a little bit of a tricky scheduling spot. Andrew's also involved in this game in Van City. Andrew, go for it.
Yeah, notable to mention that the over is 7-3 in both these two teams' last 10 games. So they're both finding a way to score and finding a way to put up numbers. But I'd have to agree with you guys and what you're saying. And with Dana's underplay in this game, I believe he was on the under. So you said Ian. But looking at this, yeah,
Yes,
I
he
do
was.
think it's going to be one of those lower scoring games. But Vancouver will dominate, in my opinion. I think that Philadelphia has kind of come to life a little bit. They had that terrible losing streak where they just looked absolutely garbage. I mean, they were going 0 for 7, 0 for 8 on the power play. Their defense, they might as well have just been a bunch of pylons standing at the blue line. They couldn't do anything. And then last night, are you guys impressed by that win against Oilers with, I believe, Brossois? If I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly, but in nets for them. I mean, that's not really impressive for me. That doesn't really, you know, make the Philadelphia
Doesn't move the
Flyers
needle.
stand
I
out for
agree.
me.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, not to really call one goalie out like that, but it doesn't really get me too excited looking at that. So, and I don't even think it was that fantastic of a game from Philadelphia. And I was bashing Vancouver's decor for a lot of the season so far, but I have to say they've done a great job of moving the puck up the ice. I mean, they're making tape-to-tape passes, long stretch, go-ahead passes to this depth of the Vancouver Canucks. I mean, one thing I do love about this Canucks team is that if you were to do a fantasy DraftKings lineup or a FanDuel, you really couldn't be able to pick someone out who you think is going to be your main scorer for this Canucks team. I mean, it's kind of all over the place, and it's good to see. Like sometimes you have no idea who's going to be for them, and that kind of sparks my interest as well. And just coming into this game, Philadelphia. I mean, Philadelphia is of course 2-10 straight up in their last 12 games. If that says anything to you, but I want to make a note just really quickly about the favorites you see on tonight's card, and even though they're not a huge favorite right now, Vancouver, not in this case, but for most cases, as far as bankroll management, as far as units go, it's almost sometimes if you're on a team, if you really like a team, and they're looking at about like minus 150, minus 160, something like that, it's almost better for your bankroll and when you're trying to manage your units to get on that puck line. If you think a team's going to win that much and they're heavily favored that much, you're just buying more. You're spending way more to get that one unit on the money line. Whereas if you think they're going to win, might as well get on that puck line at a plus price. Doesn't matter how if that's still a low plus price because you're simply not risking as many units and you're not spending as much to get that. And so if you like a team so much that's so favored, then you might as well get on that puck line. But this is actually one of those games where I'm going to go against my theory in that because I do think that this will be one of those lower scoring dominant games if that makes any sense for you guys. So I'm looking at more of a 3-1 game for the Vancouver Canucks.
All right, Vancouver for Andrew in that game against Philadelphia. It's going to be an interesting one to play out. We got Ottawa, LA next game on the rotation. 65-66, no line. This is a game I'm not even going to be involved with. I already know it. I can't take Ottawa here, back-to-back situation. They've been shut out in 2 straight road games against Anaheim and Winnipeg. You know what's funny about this Ottawa team? They've scored 2 goals or less in 9 of their last 10 games during this horrible run they've been on. The only win was that 6-goal explosion against the New York Islanders. But again, the Islanders are giving up goals to everybody on a nightly basis. That's the one game Ottawa's put a puck in the net, the last several. That's it. Other than that, this offense has been nowhere to be found. You got to put out an APB on them. Can't find this offense with a telescope right now. The Ottawa Senators, it's just absolutely brutal. I mean, where's Bobby Ryan and where's Mike Hoffman gone? And Mark Stone's still been okay during this run, but there's a lot of big time producers here for this Ottawa team not getting the job done. And I'm telling you what, people laughing, saying Matt Duchene, what an impact he's going to make here for them. What impact? What impact? I mean, geez, he has been absolutely asleep since he got traded from the Colorado Avalanche. I mean, Nashville got the best of that trade. It sure as fuck ain't the Ottawa Senators. I'm telling you right now, Nashville got the best of that trade. Kyle Turris has been a difference maker for them. He's been an impact for them. It's been an impact with Matt Duchene, a miserable impact, a negative impact. Your team has sucked since you got him type of impact. That's the impact. That's the impact with Matt Duchene. On the Ottawa Senators. So, yeah, Ottawa's reeling right now. I don't want any part of them. Problem is, LA's playing great. 6 in a row. They swept the 4-game road trip. Overcame a brutal spot against Minnesota and beat them the other night. Very impressive win for the LA Kings. They're just going to be priced, though, in that probably 150 range, 60 probably maybe even against this Ottawa team. That's not the range I like laying a price with LA in. I know they're playing good, but it's a clear stay away game for me. It's going to be too priced out of range for me with LA, but I'm not going to be looking to make a case for Ottawa either. So that'll be a pass for me in that game. We wrap it up with Carolina, San Jose, 67-68. San Jose minus 130 home chalk, total 5.5 shaded to the under. I know it's San Jose back home off a long road trip. That's usually a bet against spot for me, and it's usually a bet against spot for someone else I know. The guy that's going to talk about this game right now, Alex B. Smith. Am I right on did I hit the nail on the head here or what?
Well, that usually is the case, but you look at how bad this Carolina team is, and that's the thing. It's like, at first my automatic instinct is to, it's one of the things I do. I'll look through certain teams, San Jose, I'll look through the schedule at the beginning of the year. I will circle the first day after a long road trip with the San Jose team because for years it has cashed in. And so they come home, they never play well, and it's been not that much of a gap in time too since they were last on the road. But this Carolina team is struggling a little bit. Offensively, they got shut out by Vancouver, which is something I didn't. I was on Vancouver. I thought they'd win. I didn't see them getting shut out. Jacob Markstrom was brilliant in that game. So it's interesting. I'm leaning toward more of the under here. I can see where both teams kind of play a little slow, but if this price does keep climbing up, I will have a little bit of the Hurricanes in my pocket. And just to kind of reiterate one thing that Andrew was talking about with these favorites. Something else you want to take a glance at too, especially with using a source like SBR odds, shopping around, finding different prices. Look for playing games that within that regulation, that three-way line. You don't talk about it a whole lot. I know it's not available a lot of shops in Vegas, but offshore, widely available with the three-way lines and even some of those -1. Sometimes you don't always have to lay 1.5. Looking for some of those alternate ways to jump into a game with a favorite, especially in these shorter range favorites. You can find some better prices, so that's something to take a look at. But as far as Canes and Sharks, I'll be looking at the under, and if Carolina, like I said, might have a little bit of Carolina in my pocket as that plus price tends to go up.
All right, there you go, Carolina at a plus price, and also the under, right? You said?
Yes, right.
All right, there you go. Under the official play there on that game, Carolina, San Jose for Alex B. Smith. And that's going to bring us to best bets to wrap up the show. Let's start with Dana's best bet. It's going to be Pittsburgh, -145. That is his best bet. Pittsburgh Penguins, $1.45, home favorite. That's the best bet for Dana Lane. Andrew McKinnis, best bet.
Yeah, we're heading to the Dallas and St. Louis game, guys, and I'm just going to stick with my gut feeling on this one, stick with what the research is telling me, and go over the total on this one. I think looking at this matchup, the way these two teams are playing, the way that Dallas is, like I said, trying to prove their depth and who they are, I like them. Ian mentioned Tyler Seguin playing out of his mind right now. You can always count on Radulov to put up a big effort every single night, day in and day out, and these two teams are scoring. But not only that. They're executing on their power plays and they're getting good scoring opportunities. I mean, when you go back and watch games or you watch highlights for a game or I'll try to make a point to at least kind of watch a tiny bit of each game that I'm somewhat interested in every night, just to get that good little sense and a feeling about how a game is going. And with these two teams right now, and with Kari letting them in, I just think he's going to have way too many goals just fly past him. So for me, this is a good spot, and for this total, the side's kind of up in the air. The fact is that St. Louis has dominated Dallas, but they didn't have Ben Bishop. The fact is, it doesn't matter because Ben Bishop is not in nets tonight for them. So if Ben Bishop was in nets, I would have been all over Dallas tonight, actually. But for me, this just says over because I do think the Dallas offense will show up. But I can't really see them keeping St. Louis to 1 or 2 goals tonight, guys. And also, just quickly, I didn't really have any planned thing to say about the Montreal game, but just a little small bet. I don't take a lot of these, but I'm looking over in the first period, 1.5 for the Habs and Flames game. Flames on the back-to-back spot. The Habs are well rested. They've been scoring well, and we're going to get a backup goalie in for Calgary, I'm assuming. So the first period might be a good over.
All right, there you go. First period over as well from Calgary, Montreal. But Dallas, St. Louis over 5.5. The best bet for Andrew here going into this one. I'll tell you what, David Rittich, the backup goalie here for Calgary. I wish his name was Glenn. Glenn Rittich. It doesn't sound like Glenn Fittich, the beverage. Yeah, the alcoholic beverage. It would be excellent if it would have been a nice little ring to it. But Alex B. Smith, your best bet. Go for it.
Yeah, Glenfiddich, that's pretty good scotch. But my best bet, I'm going back with Winnipeg. I mean, they're the better team. They're much better than Florida, in my opinion. They're getting a decent price here. You can shop around -15, even -$1.20, and they should be playing well. They're a good team off of a loss, 6-0, 5-2 last 7 as a favorite. And I just don't see where Florida. I don't see James Reimer, outplaying Connor Hellebuck right now in this game. So I'm going with the Jets, -$1.15. That's my best bet tonight.
All right, Winnipeg, best bet for Alex B. Smith. And I'm going to go with the best bet that cashed in for me on Tuesday night. It was the Islanders over. I know it's a steeper number here tonight, Islanders Pittsburgh, but we're going to go with it over 6.5 plus 100. Nice price, though, plus 100. Over 6.5 Islanders Pittsburgh. Last 2 meetings between these teams of the regular season last year, Islanders Penguins, 7 and 8 goals. Total goals in those games. We can get there. It's a high number, but we can get to 7. 4-3 cashes a ticket, just like it did the other night with Rangers Pittsburgh. I think we get there. Look at these Islanders team. How do you give up 6 goals to Ottawa last week the way they've been scoring or not scoring lately? So they're giving them up. They're scoring. And Pittsburgh, we know how good they are offensively. And Tristan Jarry coming back down to earth a little bit last game. I think that could continue tonight. Give me over 6.5. Islanders Pittsburgh, my best bet, which wraps up the show. That's going to do it for our Thursday edition of the Ice Guys. Check out sportsbookreview.com every day for live odds, free picks, free articles. Check out the links below to all of SBR's social media platforms and give the show a thumbs up if you liked it. We're back on Saturday at 9 a.m. Eastern for Andrew McGinnis and Alex B. Smith and Dana Lane, who will be back in the chair on Saturday. I'm Ian Cameron for Sportsbook Review. Have a great night. Enjoy the hockey action. We'll be back Saturday. Good luck, everybody.